would love to introduce our special guest for the evening, Steve Aoki. Hey, Steve. So this is our second time we've met.
Yeah.
At the Grammys, actually. So first of all, I guess, how has your year been?
Pretty. I mean,
that's a loaded question.
Yeah. It was different. I started off this year with a lot more studio time than normal. I usually do a bus tour. January, February is a good time to do a bus tour because not many people are doing that. So I use that time to really work in the studio. And it wasn't just, my focus wasn't just about crafting the album or the next next Aoki project, but just to be in the studio with different artists, see where it's going to go. And I mean, now the idea of new projects are forming. I'm doing things outside of, my world.
Sure.
And it's opened me up a lot. And then I did a lot of the European touring in the summertime.
I mean, there's obviously information out that you have broken the Guinness World Record of the most traveled artist. Have you slowed down at all?
Yes, I have, actually.
Okay. I'm sure the management are happy about that.
Well, they make more money when I tour more, so.
I'm sure the management are really unhappy about that.
But it's a balance because you could tour your heart out and just be on the road, but then you have to have music. You have to have music to stay relevant and to stay, to have shows that are filled up. Yeah. People want to see you. But I found like a sweet spot. For me, at least, because 300 was excessive.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I've seen photographs of you sleeping in the middle of the aisle of the plane and people looking at you laughing.
I don't care. I'm asleep. It doesn't matter. But 220 is like that's a good number for me.
That's a lot. Oh my gosh. So obviously this was like a very different year for you. With one of the primary reasons why we're here to discuss this documentary that you've made, and I can imagine this was like a very personal. This is not like a normal documentary. I think I've seen I don't know how many music documentaries, and this one was very personal. How do you? How was that for you? I mean, you're so used to having a camera put on you everywhere you go. I'm sure there's cameras. But tell me a little bit of how different that particular camera felt.
Yeah, I blame Justin for that. Where I don't know if he's here. Is he here? No. Justin's the director, and he's like the all-in-one guy. I travel with him a lot. You're right. So I travel with someone that films and someone that takes photographs.
Right.
And we've been uploading and making video content for the YouTubers out there that follow me.
Sure.
They don't get to see the shows, but they get to see the shows through the YouTube. And it's all controlled around the shows and the pace and the adventures and the people I meet on the road.
Yeah.
And it's fun. And it's like that's what the Steve Aoki brand is all about.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all started.
Okay.
When they came aboard to shoot and film, we were already being asked if different directors and different people would come aboard and shoot and get their take on it. And I was like, nah, we don't need anybody else. We got our own team, and we don't want to get someone else's kind of vision in it because it's,
So was this your idea to do this documentary, or were you pitched this idea?
I don't remember. That's more of a Mac question. I just remember these guys came aboard,
right.
And we had to make it. Like, I think there was a decision being made. Like, okay, these guys made an incredible doc, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, which I was so moved by, and I was like, you know what, this perspective on the road could be really interesting. So we started off very neutral. They just came on the road and did the crazy pace, all the amazing crowds and fans, and then we got to a point like probably 6 months in, where they're like, hey, we want to actually film other stuff if you're willing to do that.
Right.
And it was, you know, it's less about the camera being filmed, it's about the person behind the camera. So there's a level of intimacy and, like, you know, friendship and trust that had to be formed.
You can definitely, I mean, you opened yourself up to, I could sense the vulnerability, which I think was beautiful, inspiring actually, because I think artists generally live in a fairly guarded world. There's only, you know, you want to try and keep your personal life separate, at least from the persona. And you know, this was a very special documentary because I think that you really did open yourself up, and that to me was like a huge part of this. And you did actually just mention YouTube, so I have to say also, I know that there is an online audience, and so I just want to say hello to the online audience and welcome them to the conversation. So I want to dig in a little bit to the documentary, some of the content. You have a fairly big family. You're one of how many brothers and sisters?
From my mom and obviously my dad, I have two others. And then my dad had another family, so there's three others, and then another one. So like, and we all, I mean, they're all my siblings. So
it adds up to 6. Is that
seven?
Right? 7? Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to get that wrong. Yeah. So, and you know, there was obviously undoubtedly the inspiring factor that remains a thread, at least throughout the documentary, was your father. And so tell us about, before we go into that, you growing up, you were in Orange County originally and then moved up to LA?
Yeah, so right? My mom we lived in Newport Beach.
Newport.
And my adolescence until I went to college was down there.
Right.
And my father he's a New Yorker, so that's his turf. And when I was growing up, he'd come in and I'd see him for a minute, or I'd fly in and hang out with him and actually bond with my other siblings.
Right. And
we became really close that way. So, you know, I owe him for becoming close with my other siblings.
Right.
And then, you know, then I was like, oh yeah, we are a family, you know. So me and Devin became really close.
Right. Yeah.
Same with me and Kyle and Echo. I mean, everyone, we're all pretty tight.
And yeah, I mean, Devin actually has, I guess it's a celebrity career, right? And is that the only other sibling that is in this kind of world of entertainment?
Well, maybe a restaurateur life is part of that as well. Because my brother, he's followed my father's footsteps. He was, you know, he climbed the ranks of, you know, starting from the bottom at Benihana's and then becoming a manager and then a regional and then, you know, becoming a board and eventually splitting off and then starting his own restaurants. So he's got an incredible story, and he's traveling and making incredible restaurants with his
300 a year. And I guess there's a story of you in your youth getting involved in the actual restaurant, and I guess it wasn't for you. And then at some point you had said, right, I'm moving into music. Is that so? Can you help us understand that transition?
Yeah. So yeah, I did that. My brother was a manager, and it was like with summer fling. Yeah. And you know, he's tough love too. He's like, you got to start from the bottom. You're gonna the first thing you're gonna do is the most important thing is you got to peel onions. So we had 4 bags of onions a day. It was like I don't know. I counted like 450 onions a day, peeling them.
I've seen a photograph of you with like.
That's part of the thing. You have to do that. I mean, if you want to be a chef, you have to start as kitchen help. You know, you got to start there. I don't find it a problem at all. I was like, this is part of it. This is what you have to do.
Yeah.
but I realized that I didn't really want to be in the kitchen, and I was actually just my identity was forming at that time too. I was figuring out what I wanted to do in life, and I mean I became a vegetarian, so like already what I was eating did not make sense for me to be in the steakhouse business.
Right.
So
That's a good one.
That's like a byproduct of a more important story for me, my musical start, and that's when I got introduced into this straight edge hardcore scene.
Yeah, this is the thing that I'm not sure if how many people know this, but your roots were in sort of punk hardcore, really, at the beginning, right?
And the best part about that is this idea of community and this DIY spirit.
Yeah.
And this idea that you can really tackle anything, as long as you tackle it, it doesn't matter how good it's done, Right. That's why there's so many punk bands that are actually not really they're not that good as technically as a band, but they're amazing. They have created a culture.
Well, it's funny because in the London punk scene that I was in, from the outside it looked very aggressive, but from the inside it was actually more of a peace movement. It was like a political statement.
Right.
But so let's talk about you moved to LA and you were involved in this punk movement. There's a transition. You must have had a moment where, I know that there was a party that you were throwing. You were 19 when you started Dim Mak, right?
Yeah. So when to give you some start on that.
Yeah.
I was in high school. I got involved in the scene, and then I got excited. It's like you see these bands, and you all you do is emulate these bands. And so the first thing I did was pick up a guitar, a 4-track Tascam recorder, learn how to record music, make music. Even though it was as bad as it was, I got with some other friends and we made more bad music together. And it's it's a trial and error. You learn the steps. You just keep going at it. And we had shows in our living rooms in the beginning, and then we found hole in the wall spots to do shows. And when I went to college, I went to UC Santa Barbara, and this is where Gaucho somewhere. And if you know UC Santa Barbara, it's one of the most famous party schools in the United States. And
I didn't know
the
that.
reason, and I have to say the reason why is that they built this little city, and they just stuck all the students there, and they're like, you guys fend for yourselves, and there's no parents around.
Sounds
they're
like a lot of fun.
18, 19. It's like you can have all your friends move into a house, and guess what? You can have a party every single night because your neighbor is like another group of students, and their neighbors are another group of students. So it was just nonstop partying. But for me, I was straight edge. So this is really kind of weird because, I wasn't drinking or doing drugs, but
Okay.
I was like, this is perfect because I could put on shows and have these loud, noisy bands that are screaming about one thing or another. They could come play in my living room.
Let me ask
And that's
you.
what happened. We had 400, 200, 300 bands would come. We had so many shows with 200 or 300, 400 bands. Eventually, making, its mark in our living room. No pun intended. It was dirtiest floor you've ever seen in your life. And these bands would sleep on the floor too, which was even more disgusting. But that's, I just remember when ISIS and Cave In and these hardcore metal bands would be, they play, everyone's in there moshing and dancing, and then they would leave, and then they would crash out 15 sweaty dudes on the floor using one toilet, and that's life. And I was the happiest kid in the world,
I could go straight into how that leaps into the next step, but I want to step back a tiny bit because when you went to this college, you were a little bit of an outsider, right? And so Was the punk movement to you a way of reacting against some form of isolation?
The best part about college that I realized, and it took me a while to adjust, is that when you're in high school, I mean, you do anything weird and you're just a weirdo. I mean, if you're in elementary school, it's like I brought a rice ball and everyone made fun of me. And it's like, I don't understand, but this is rice and seaweed. It's so good. And everyone's making weird faces at me. I just don't get it, Mom. Don't make me rice balls anymore. Like, can you make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? The other guys have that too, you know? And like you're crying for weeks over that. And in high school, it's a little bit worse. And obviously in college, you're like, oh, we're all weirdos, actually. And then there's all these weirdo groups that you could join and hang out with all your weird friends, and then you're like, you don't feel weird anymore. It's like that was the great thing about college is going, okay, now like I have a place, like all these all these like hardcore kids would hang out, we'd play.
You found your tribe.
This. Yeah, exactly. You find your tribe. And then you start exploring and you start understanding, all these different things, and you join all these different groups. Like I was part of a political group, like reading Mao books, and then at the same time I was going to anime club, watching, Armitage and Dragon Ball Z, whatever the hell we were watching. It was just so weird. It's just across the board. You're like,
Well, that's a beautiful moment of discovery of who you are and finding your tribe. And, when you found your tribe and you had your, crammed parties in the living room, it was obviously exploding to the point where it had to go one way or the other, just break up or get more organized, right? I mean, I'm assuming that there was a moment where you said, I've got something here. And how do I organize?
Well, the best part about having these shows is that we became the center of this community, and it was a perfect place for me to say, hey, I can actually start a label. I don't really need any money. I don't really need, like marketing plans. I don't even know what marketing meant. I have a community that's going to support this, an ecosystem that exists already right here. And I know where all the shows are. I'm gonna go sell these records there and support bands that didn't get signed. Mm-hmm. And we did that for a period of time. And I was in my own band. I was trying to do my thing.
And this is Dim Mak.
Yeah, this is Dim Mak Records.
Okay, so you've started Dim Mak, and is this when was it like a weekly party or a monthly party, like Dim Mak Tuesdays?
Oh yeah, that's farther down the line.
That's further down.
Yeah, we have. Down. Yeah, I'll get there.
You keep me on there.
So basically, I retired the guitar and the microphone and when I finished college.
Right.
And then I decided I had to make a choice whether I was going to stay in academia or continue with my record label. And at that point, I decided to stay with my label. I got a demo from this amazing band called The Kills, and
you've heard of them, right?
And the singer actually played in my living room. So it all boils back to the Pickle Patch. And I remember her old band was incredible. It's called
The
Discount.
Pickle Patch was the name of
the living room.
Okay, the Pickle Patch.
It was Hot Water Music, Discount, and another band from Tennessee, and they played in front of 12 people. And I remember it was one of my favorite shows. But we bonded, and then she was like, hey, I'm in this new band. I moved to England. It's called The Kills. Here's the demo. This is the best fucking thing I ever heard. I'm going to do this for real. So I moved to LA, and then I wanted to be there.
Was that the reason why you moved to LA? Was that the moment?
That was the impetus for me to do it. I mean, overall, it was like
right.
I already released 30 releases on Dim Mak, so it was happening, and then I moved to LA, moved in the center of Hollywood, was doing the label, not making any money because it's hard to,
yeah,
and then I got lucky where I started DJing. And that became really the wellspring of hundreds of dollars, like $100 here, $100
Yeah.
there, you know, to actually pay my bills
Yeah.
and pay all the debt that incurred on doing Dim Mak. And I was doing Dim Mak for my apartment there. And
I saw you DJ back then. By the way.
I'm sure it was really bad.
No, actually, it was different.
Was it 2000? Okay, I'm talking about like when I first started. This is like 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it took me a couple of years.
Yeah,
I got the hang of it.
I actually have seen you play some of your early shows and some of your early Ibiza shows before you broke that scene. So I've actually been on the sideline watching you grow, which has just been incredible. So you've moved to LA. You've got your label going. The Kills were becoming the front as the label.
The Kills were like a really important band for me because I was going on the tour with them. I was, really focusing on the label more. It became a business, because we're actually selling records. And then the next band was Block Party, and that really took off. And that's when Benji and Joel, they were my friends at the time from Good Charlotte, and they were like, "Yo, I got 13 interns. I can't afford a employee. I'm still working in my apartment with records to the ceiling and no organization. I need some help." And I found this abandoned house behind Amoeba Records, and I'm like, I can't afford to move in there, but they're like, "Hey, we'll take care of the rent. We'll take care of the first 6 months of your rent." And then I was like, holy shit. I'm like, Cobra Snake, Mark, you can have a room. And it's like basically a closet. It's like, sweet, I'll take the closet over there. And then I hired my first employee. And then because we finally started making money from Block Party. And, and then I was DJing. And then this was at the same time when I realized after DJing all these little parties and I couldn't really make money because I was playing for like $50 and I had to bring my equipment that cost $75,
right?
To rent. I was like, I'm not gonna make any money this way. I'm just gonna throw Dim Mak parties with my friends, and then we're gonna have our own little thing at the smallest bar and make something fun and cool for just these kids, and then call in like Nixon from Yeah Yeahs or call Carlos from Interpol, see if they'll come play after their shows, and we'll make a kind of like a recurring theme.
Scene.
And I've partnered up with another newbie to LA at the time. His name is Frankie Chan, and he moved from Seattle, and he was already on the streets doing the flyers. So he was already like hustling, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. We'll work together. Yeah. And I was opening. So it was me and then Frankie and then the DJ.
Okay.
And I remember when we got my first $100, I'm like, fucking sweet. Like we're partying. I'm hanging out with like Nixon from Yeah Yeahs. There's like, all these girls here.
Let's not forget that.
But so, and we're playing in front of 40 people. I'm like, this is more than the pickle batch ever had. This is so cool,
So, your father was doing extraordinarily well. And clearly, I'm hearing a story of you struggling on your own to do this. So you weren't reaching to your father for help, and he wasn't extending that.
I couldn't. I mean, it's just not the kind of guy he is.
Right.
Like I already knew what he'd say.
So his idea of you being in the music business, how did that go down?
Even when I told him I was making $150 here and there, and I was like, listen, I made $150 here, times 3, times 4, that equals this amount. I forgot what it was. So what is that? 150 times 3 is 300, 450. 450 times 4 is like $1,600 or $1,700. My rent cost $1,000. I split that in half with my girlfriend at the time, so it's $500. My phone bill was like $150, $650. Plus my car insurance was like $800, $900. I'm making profit, like $500 profit.
Damn it!
I'm like, Dad, are you kidding me? This is great. And then I started paying off my bills. He's like, you're gonna be a DJ for the rest of your life playing these little bars? Like this is not a future. You still need to get out of your head out of here. I think, and this is the thing is, if you break it down like this, any traditional Japanese parent, and Japanese, like the old school Japanese salarymen, they put work over everything. Right. So if they see their kid fucking around, getting a couple $100 here and thinking like they're doing something with their lives, they're gonna be like, why would I actually support him? I'm just gonna support him to fail, and he's not gonna get out of this, and he's gonna be drunk, and he's not gonna get shit together, you know. So I mean, that's how I see it in retrospect. Is like, and I also, like, I was doing my own thing, you know. I mean, I'm not. If I was in the restaurant business, I'm like, hey, Dad, maybe you can help me with the restaurant.
Right. And so, do you feel that created? I mean, you know, the documentary is heartwarming, and you know, your respect for your father and your love for your father, and the inspiration that he was and will always be to you. You doing your own thing, he did his own thing too, really, right? So I mean, there is a parallel, and you believed in yourself in the same way that he believed in himself. And so, was there a moment? Was there a bridging point where he could start to see that this was really working for you? Did you get that?
That happened later.
Yeah.
And that happened for him later, and that also happened for me later. Yeah. Because, I mean, there's a lot of things, like I was diametrically different than him. And when I was in college, he didn't understand why I graduated with women's studies and sociology. He just like, wait, hold on a second. Like, you know, this is a guy from Japan, like, just trying, like, you know, he's an entrepreneur.
Was he schooled in Japan?
Huh?
Was he schooled in Japan, or was he schooled?
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what.
So, because
he's a businessman. Let's just put it that way.
Sure. And he built his, if you call it an empire, you know, around showmanship, really, which is, you know, the gene runneth forward, and you must have taken inspiration from the fact that, you know, the Benihana Legacy was your father. This was not just a restaurant. This was where every celebrity known to the camera was there, right? So I mean, everybody from Muhammad Ali to Barbara Streisand or whoever, everybody went to Benihana, and you know, so there was a show.
I never met any of them.
You know, none.
I just saw them on the wall.
You see the pictures, right?
I'll be honest. I met Flip Wilson on, you know, and I don't even think he knew I was his son. See, it's like, you know, it's like what, like, you know, it's like there's, you know, like I was saying, anyways. For me, I definitely see that I wanted his approval more so when I was actually making money enough to pay off my debt, and I incurred a lot of debt with Dim Mak. You know, I didn't really, you know, I was like, oh shit, we're making all this, you know, we're selling all these records. We're not necessarily making a lot of money. We're selling all these records, so I'm gonna just dish out all this, and realized you just it doesn't work like that, right. You know. And then when I got the DJing was the savior. I mean, so when I got to the point when I actually broke through and I was actually paying off my shit, and I remember bringing a bag of cash to buy my first car. My first car was a Isuzu Rodeo that my mom bought me from a police auction for my brother, who bought it for $7,000, and I toured around that beast for a while. Eventually I had to retire that. So I got my first car, and I had a bag of cash, and it was like stripper money cash, like drug dealing money cash, looking like, you know, and I dumped it on the table.
Looked like, wasn't.
Yeah. Well, it was all DJing money, you know, from dirty bars, and
so it did come from that.
And I dumped it all out, and I was like, I want to get the Prius over there, And he's like sifting through this cash, like, I don't know what to do. This has never happened before. It's only what happened one time before. And then the guy left and like with all the cash, like, how are we going to do this? Confused. I'm like, listen, this is what I have. This is my piggy bank in this white paper bag. Here it is. Take it or leave it. Car's 19 grand. I got 18,500. Take it. And then I eventually negotiated. I got the car. I was like, fuck yeah, I got my car. You know, I called my dad. I got my fucking car with my cash.
Is he proud?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. He's like, oh, that's great, that's good, you know. And then I started flying to New York. I was like, oh, I could go to New York. I don't need to crash at your house. I could stay at a hotel. This is new. I mean, if you talk to any bands touring, you don't stay in hotels.
No.
Okay, so
you're sleeping in the van.
You're sleeping in the van. You're sleeping on couches. Yeah. So and that's when I realized deep inside, through all this, I really wanted his approval. I really wanted to show him that it took all this kind of time to get there, and this was like already my mid-20s, almost late 20s. And
you started the label at 19. This is just a year on. These things are moving fast for you. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I moved to LA in 2002. I was like 21 or something, I forgot, and then took some time, like 4 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
To get to a point where I'm like, okay, you know, I could actually live off DJing in these small clubs, you know. But he even saw it as like, well, I mean, this is fun, you know, you're hanging in there. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this shit, man. I'm gonna really make this happen. I'm gonna show you I'm good, because at this point in his life, his body was getting more and more deteriorated from the Hep C that he contracted from from blood transfusion back, you know.
Right.
So
let's backpedal a tiny bit. The label's running. You had this party started. So, you know, whenever you start this label, just like the Pickle Patch, you created a destination. You had something for people. It becomes almost marketing. And tell me, you were starting to do this like Dim Mak Tuesdays, and we're at that point now, right? Where we're getting to that point.
Yeah.
And so you tell me some of the people who played, because there's some, I mean, I know Lady Gaga, some of these like early shows, some big names, even Daft Punk. I don't want to put the words.
Yeah, no.
You tell me. I mean,
please,
I mean, you know, Block Party is obviously still in the mix, and you know, we're talking about some very significant early electronic music that became what is now like legacy artists, and this is like must have been some of their first shows.
You know what it was? It wasn't just because it wasn't really DJs that were playing there. It was like bands and hip hop artists and singers and people. The thing is about that time, this is MySpace era, so this is pre like where you can bring your iPhone and take pictures and video everything. So there was a photographer, and it was Cobra Stick, and that's how you saw the photos. And if you wanted to experience it, you had to be there. Right. So it was different than, it was truly underground in the sense where you had to be there to experience that.
Sure.
So that's why will.i.am was there every Tuesday, soaking in like the culture that was happening and bringing back to the studio to, eventually form, what
Black Eyed Peas, that was,
or whoever it was, like Kid Cudi coming, or MIA's first shows.
Kanye West was there too, right?
Kanye, to like, it was our little, it was where we broke artists. It wasn't just, I mean, I remember with, when Timbaland was there with Jimmy Iovine to see, and Nelly Furtado was there, and they're all sitting there in our little space to see, I forgot who it was, like a new artist that was about to break. And that's where you broke artists at our party. And it became that kind of epicenter where like it wasn't tainted, and it was
legitimate underground, but a lot more than that, because you basically had created like kind of like what Brent Bolthouse continued on, like a scene that was like more than, because I was living in LA at the same time and part of the DJ world, but that was more scene, like it was almost like Hollywood.
It wasn't Hollywood like DJ AM Hollywood,
Right.
but it wasn't the rave scene like Pasquale was doing with
Right.
Insomniac at the time,
Right.
and with the Doc Martens and the the guys that were really running.
Yeah, the house scene.
Yeah, and it was like a hipster kind of.
Right. It was really the beginning of that.
Right. It was
degree,
it was. But was interesting too is that there was these pockets of that happening in different parts of the world, and there was always this coalition forming, and that's when we built this coalition with Ed Banger and Justice and Busy P, and of course DJ Mehdi, and they brought in Tomas from Daft Punk,
Sure.
which blew everyone's minds. Well,
Amazing.
like maybe I don't know if
wish
that
I
might
was
have been
at
the
that
last
show.
time DJing out like that,
I'm sure.
So there was like this energy happening, and the room was so small,
Amazing.
but everyone wanted to be in
How
there.
many people are we talking about?
I don't know, if like 400, 500 people.
God, don't you wish you were there?
It's hard to do something like that now. It's hard to recreate that because I really think it's just the access is so easy.
Yeah.
It's like you want to see it. Oh yeah, you don't need to go there. It's on Snapchat.
You you just mentioned an artist that I would like to. It's part of the story, with Travis and DJ AM. Let's tell me about that. Tell me about the introduction, because that's like the other side of.
Right. So we were doing our thing, and AM came to check us out, and we just connected.
Yeah.
We connected, and we became really good friends.
Musically,
really quickly.
spiritually, all of
Just
it.
as friends.
Yeah,
He's just a genuine, one of the most generous human beings on the planet, and I was like, I always wanted to learn how to scratch. I always wanted to learn how to scratch, and he would train me and teach me, and just everything in life. I just became like he became my guru. He was
your
like
mentor, maybe.
he was 100% my mentor.
Right.
He was really like he could speak and everyone would listen, and he was able to influence people in a really positive way, and I just he's just one of the best dudes out there. Really cared for people, and then we started Banana Split Sundays.
Right.
We're like, we got to do a party together. We got to do a party. He's already been trotting around the United States,
So
best DJ on the fucking planet.
Yeah,
period,
and so he had a huge position in Hollywood, and you had created this underground but really profile underground scene, and now you're combining forces really through friendship and through a mentoring. And this is a question from me personally. Was AM on? Did you sign him to your label? Or?
Oh no.
So
We did do a song together.
You did.
We remixed this group on Dim Mak called Autoerotic, and I brought I wanted him to scratch on it originally, but I just brought my whole studio setup to his house, and then pulled out the MIDI, and we actually wrote the bass line together. So that was cool. And we have a song that we did together.
That must be special.
Yeah, it's cool that we have that, But yeah, he was bigger than life to me. I wouldn't even think about signing him. He's just so, it was just different,
And then, most people know the history. Kevin Kerslake, a dear friend of mine, did a documentary about DJ AM and this incredible life he had, and you're obviously a part of it, as is Matt Kalan and your group. And then this tragedy happened. Were you aware of his addictive qualities and that style?
I was, because he was very outspoken and very transparent about it.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't know that that he relapsed. I didn't know that that was I just didn't think that was possible. You know.
Yeah, because he cleaned up for a while.
It's heavy to like go back to that period of time and think about it. You know, it's harder for me to talk about.
We don't have to.
But in any case,
you know, I mean, let's keep on a more positive note. The fact is, he was a mentor to you, and it kind of runs parallel to the mentorship that your father had with you, because that's in this documentary. There is this, the thread of your father being this larger than life character, and I mean, he didn't have a hot air balloon record, and he wanted to be the fastest man on water, and you know, you've now become the Guinness Book of Records most traveled artist. I mean, this is like a genetic thing, and so I just wonder, like, where you know, where
I could never do what Rocky Aoki did. Like all those things, I couldn't do that. I definitely can do different stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he would jump off the cliffs I'm jumping off of. Maybe actually he probably would, but but like I mean I've been in a boat going pretty fast and probably not nearly as fast as him, and I'm like,
whoa!
I'm like fucking slow down, you know, like, you know. So
I've seen you jumping out of planes though, so you've got that in you.
I think we can all jump out of planes.
Not me.
It's not that hard. You just have to close your eyes. And then that's it. You don't do
Easily
that much.
said.
It's
I'm
not
scared of heights. So, you know, you're traveling. Okay, so last year was 300 shows. This year maybe less. Do you're sort of you've become a global citizen now, really? But do you consider yourself still an Angelino at heart? Or?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, LA is a city where all the big successes in my career, they happen here. All the music that I wrote that really transcended me happened here. And I am my studio's also, I have an incredible studio that I built in Vegas, and I'm writing there now. I'm producing a lot of music there, but you know, that you can't take that from me. Like LA, you can't take that.
This is home.
Yeah, this is always going to be home, no matter where I move to. Right. I love the city, and that's why Dim Mak is not ever leaving LA.
Right.
Dim Mak is only a few blocks away from here. It's in downtown LA.
Yep.
And Dexstar, my management company, is firmly here as well. I mean, the thing is, I moved because I'm not really. As long as I can work, it can work anywhere. I can, right. If I work on music, it doesn't have to be in my house in the hills. At one point when I was working, I could be anywhere. You know.
Well, you know, the thing that I've noticed about your career, you know, with this big EDM explosion, and I think that you've been kind of grouped into that. But I always saw something different in you, and that's probably the punk thread, because you've kind of broken the rules, and I think that that's kind of, I mean, look, you've broken the rules in so many ways. Let's first of all go to performance. You've got the haters who are like, oh, he's just throwing cakes at people. What is this all about? This isn't real dance music. You know, we want to have a disco ball and that's about it, you know? And so, you know, you've got the haters and then the people who absolutely love you. I'll carry on with the topic, but how do you deal with that side of, how does that affect you personally?
I think there's a scale, and you know, there's people that are just plain mean, and like you just gotta let that slide, and that's easy to just slide off your back. Yeah. And then there's people that that you look up to, or that you know have done something significant, and when they say something, then it really hurts. Right. It really hurts because like they almost take the generalizations and then they make it their own truth, and then they dispel it out, right. And without really looking into the details of it. Right. Where the guys that are just plain mean, they don't care. They don't care whether if it's truth or it's not truth. Yeah. They're just gonna troll and hate. Yeah. So like usually someone of influence is someone that would think about something before they say it and
well, I mean, obviously it's deeper if it comes from the music press, because they're meant to have a genuine opinion of like what true artistry is, and there's absolutely nobody on this planet that can deny your true artistry. And as a performer, you know, do we blame Cirque du Soleil or the Blue Man Group because they're putting blue makeup on? I mean, they're performers. This is like, you know, the entertainment industry is based around artistry and performance. And so for me personally, I salute you because I see the music, I hear the music and the hard work that goes into you, and what you do and your management team are just incredible, and the team around you. I don't know how they keep up with you, poor Matt.
He doesn't travel with me. He's good.
Oh, is he good now?
He likes to stay in LA.
He's had a baby. He has a new baby. He can. He has that excuse. But here's the thing: is like what I see that has continued is that punk rock in you that started perhaps that curve. You know, and you almost got blamed for it again, is that now you've been sort of bringing in some hip hop and mixing it up, and you've kind of just done your own thing. And that to me is like how music expands. You know, some house heads are like, it's got to be a 4/4 beat, and this is all we want. And, you know, if you do anything different, the techno people are quite often the same. And it's like, what are you doing bringing in a violin? You know, we don't have violins in techno. But, you know, you use your instinct, and you know, tell me sort of how you know, because your record label is expanding now to, I've seen your shows, and it's changing, it's evolving, and where's it going?
Well, as far as working with, you know, different genres, that's my favorite. I think my favorite experiences in the studio is working with people outside of my comfort zone, or not necessarily my comfort zone, but the traditional, you know, artists that you would work with. So, you know, doing something with Lady Antebellum, you know, that's pretty cool, you know, to work with these guys. And then doing this EP with Little Uzi Vert, you know, and being in the studio with him for a week and starting over. I remember I had all these beats that I was working on, and I was excited for him to hear, and it just, something wasn't clicking, you know? And then I was like, you know what? Let's just reset. Let's actually start from fresh. Start from square one and see if we can get a vibe. And vibe is everything.
Everything.
You know, and then you get the right vibe, then the creativity flows out. Right. And that's also exciting to, you know, to like go and reset and start fresh and see what happens. It doesn't necessarily have to be what people expect it to be or what you expect it to be. And, you know, I'm definitely an artist that never thinks about, well, I need to have a Billboard #1 or top 10 or, right. You know, I've survived by just making songs that I love. And my hope is that other people like them too, so I can continue to play in front of people that care about my music.
Well said. You know, well, I salute that. And where this has taken you, I just want to talk about a couple of what I consider, I mean, extraordinary moments that I've observed in your life. You've broken the rules. You've got, you know, people, oh, he's this, he's that. And, you know, the EDM thing has already kind of almost got a stigma attached to it because it kind of crossed into pop music. What's wrong with being popular? But you know what? You had some incredible moments, like where the proof of your direction, you tell me about closing out Tomorrowland. I mean, this is a big deal. Tomorrowland is one of the biggest events on the planet. You can compare it to Coachella or EDC in Europe, and it's probably one of the most respected electronic music festivals, in Europe and the world. And you got to close it out like 1 or 2 times, right?
I closed it out 3 times.
Wow.
On the last day, which
that is the peak
that is
spot.
insane.
I mean, that is like to close one of these big festivals that's the headline. So I mean, Steve has been brought over from America to Europe to close out the biggest event in the world, really. And so, yeah, tell us about that.
It's the most stressful feeling in the world. it's I think I did it 2 times. I closed out on the last day, and then the 3rd time it was on Friday. Is that right, Michael? Okay, so the 3. Well,
thank you.
So, anyways, it's honestly the most stressful show of the year. It is literally like New Year's Eve. It's literally like after the show is over, the most relief. And I mean, I'm preparing for the show like it is, the end of the year. Like this is where I debut new music. This is where I test out an idea to, get a reaction, like doing Titanic, and get in people.
Which was again one of those moments that like you switched the rules on everyone.
Yeah, and of course the haters just came out.
I saw that.
Single-handedly ruining EDM by bringing Celine Dion to the main stage of Tomorrowland. And I play it every single goddamn set, and I love every single moment. And it is my favorite.
Come on.
One of my favorite moments to watch people from all ages sing their hearts out. Guys, big burly guys with beards, like, arms out, with little girls, grandmas, like even little kids on the shoulders of parents, like they're even singing the song. And I remember I was like, we gotta film this. I want to film all these countries, and we did. We filmed like I don't know, we did like 40 countries in this period of time, filmed them all, and I got to meet Celine Dion. I was like mega fanboying out, and I was like, I have to show you this. I have to show you this. And I played this video of like the whole world singing her song, like all these EDM fans singing her song, and just watching her expression, just oh my God, I can't believe what's going on. I'll never forget that.
So I'm going to jump to one more. There was like an unfortunate. There was going to be a gig at Madison Square Gardens, which I know was a very meaningful thing for you, especially because your father grew up there. But then, the city of LA, what you call your home, embraced you like no other. And Mayor Garcetti basically collaborated with you and your team, and you got to do your album release party and basically own downtown LA.
Yeah,
and I was there.
Was awesome.
And tell me about that.
Yeah, it was just up the street over here. I mean, Broadway, the apartment that I'm staying in, it's like right on that street. So it was epic, 3 city blocks, doing it right in the heart of LA. It felt like I played at Jay-Z's festival, Made in America. And then you look out, you see City Hall. I was like, holy shit, we're in front of City Hall. But it was that kind of feeling. You're like in the heart of the city. It was
your home.
Yeah, it's a sentimental feeling. It made sense that we did it at here in LA, and to get the mayor's blessing, it's pretty fucking cool.
I saw the handshake, and it just looked like he was kind of like pretty streetwise cool.
He's awesome. He's an awesome guy.
Well, first of all, any of you haven't seen the documentary, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, it's on Netflix, and you have to watch it because it's probably, if not the best music documentary that I've ever seen. The thing that separates it from any other documentary I've seen is this man and the heart and the true passion and the vulnerability and the honesty and the love of family and the love of his fans. Before I go into a sort of a closing up and maybe a few questions, tell me about your relationship with your fans.
Before I get there, I really want to shout out Justin Crook and David Galb and the whole team that really made this happen. I mean, this is a long process to put together, and it was an uphill battle. I didn't even know if this thing was actually coming out at one point. You know, like it really. I don't know how much details I can go into because it's probably a bad idea. With like the first production company that bought it, and then what happened, but it's I'm just happy that it's out. I can't watch it. I'm just happy it's out. You know.
You have watched it, right?
Yeah, I watched it at Beacon Theater with my mom and my family and a bunch of strangers, and it was a bit uncomfortable. I mean, it's one thing to talk to the camera about, you know, the situation. When you know someone, you can talk about it. It's like no one else is in the room. Okay, I feel good. And then you forget, oh, shit, this is actually, people are going to see this. Like, this is really, like, going to go out there. You know, you forget about that moment. So,
you know, and I don't want to actually, also because whilst a lot of the focus has been on your father, I don't want to not talk about your mother for a minute because she's been there for you the whole way.
Absolutely. I'm really happy that I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like I feel like the film is about her.
Right.
You know, so
she's been.
I'm really happy about that. Yeah. You know, shout out to all the moms out there that don't get the credit.
Shout out to the moms
that are always there for the kids. And they almost get like forgotten, you know, like they're always there. I think that's partially why. Yeah. And they're just, you know, so.
You're a family man, and
I love my fans, by the way.
Yes, well, there's like
I wouldn't be sitting right here. There would be no documentary. There would be none of this without the fans. I mean, if the fans put me here, the fans are the reason why I can tour the way I do. It's the fans that, it's not necessarily radio that got me to the position where I am. It's not the promoters. It's the fans that demand for that to happen, that come to the shows and make it real. So there's no career without the fans.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of the fans want to ask a question or two.
Let me just start off with this. I was reading, you know, on Quora or one of those websites, like ask this entrepreneur some advice how to really grow a business. And one thing it says, like, have a 5-year plan, have a 10-year plan. Everyone says that. Right. I definitely don't think like that. Right. Because, and I don't disagree with them either. You know, for me, you can have a 5-year plan, but it's not going to be there when you get there. It's going to be different. So that's why the journey is everything, because you have to follow your gut and your passion. And let's say you're doing something you're really good at, but you hate yourself for it. You have to follow what makes you happy in the end, and that's going to change over time. And I think that's how Dim Mak survived for so long, for 20 years. We never just stayed electronic. We started in punk and hardcore, then we went to emo and indie, and we put out like some folk bands, and we put out all kinds of music. And here we are, and this is our world, this is what we love to do, and we're good at this. But it doesn't mean that we have to stay true to, we were staying true to our passion and our guiding and are being guided by that. I think that's the same way with me, even with the people I work with. I don't just stick with one particular sound. I'm following like this is exciting. This is different. I want to challenge myself and put myself in this position to try something new, and that's exciting. That's where I want to go. So it's definitely the journey, of course.
I've got one more question from a girl over here in the front. The question is, Steve followed his dreams, and working in this music industry, why did he put the documentary out now?
I don't know. Honestly, I mean, we're filming this for 3 years. At one point, I forgot that they were making a documentary. It was just so long. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't really get involved in the narration and the storytelling. They just had so much footage. I was like, okay, cool. You guys just do what you need to do and figure it out, and then. Yeah, it just came out. I mean, I think there's no plan. It just it made sense, and Netflix loved it, and they bought it, and
it's amazing.
But make sure you watch Narcos. Stranger Things.
So I want to actually just say, first of all, once again, thank you, Grammy U. Thank you for our online viewers. Thank you for our audience. Thank you for the Grammy Museum. Thank you for Matt Colon and his team, the management, and everybody around. Thank you, Steve. And I just want to also add that there was no silver spoon handed to Steve, and he achieved his success through determination and bloody hard work. So well done.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks again, Steve.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys, for coming out.